give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire.
Hey everyone, welcome to the second part of our special double episode with John Ashby, the main man behind the Gryphon. So we're going to have a little bit more of a chat now about kind of what it's like running Bristol's only and best heavy metal pub.
And best pub in Bristol, I would say too.
Best pub in Bristol. Thank you, Tom.
Stop it.
So enjoy. Let's do this. Part 2. Let's go.
John, thank you again for joining us. Thank
You're
you
very
for
welcome.
everything you've done for
Thank
this.
you,
You
John.
know?
Yeah, took a long while to get here.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Yeah, travelling down those stairs.
From up, yeah. To be fair, I remember when I first moved back to Devon and I was still running gigs for you, and you paid for me to come. It was very sweet, and you paid for me to come back and keep running gigs while you were having a bit of a, finding somebody else and stuff, and then you used to let me sleep upstairs.
Yeah.
So I've slept upstairs in John's flat.
Ooh, I wanted to privilege you.
Yeah.
Never again.
Never again. Oh, come on, it wasn't that bad.
How did you get into promoting the gigs here? How did that come about?
I think it was just me being around all the time.
Yeah, I think generally that happens a lot with job roles here.
Yeah.
People kind of like hang around long enough
Yeah.
for me to kind of go, well,
Yeah.
why don't you just do that all the time?
I was in enough bands and I knew enough bands. Oh, that was it. And I think I put on a couple of gigs for the Bristol Roller Derby lot when I was, and then they went well. And then I think we just ended up being like, and obviously like I knew loads of the grind guys and whatever. I just, I'd kind of just ended up in that space where, because I was in bands and knew lots of bands, that it was like, cool, let's just give this a go then.
Very good.
Yeah.
You do it entirely now by yourself, right?
Yeah,
John,
that's
that was
right.
it.
So I took over the bookings myself a couple of years ago. Yeah, so I in the early days I was just more preoccupied with the general day-to-day running and everything else of the pub, rather than wanting to be worried about who's going to play, what do they want money and all that kind of stuff, and having to sit down with all that. I was just too busy doing everything else, so that's why I kind of roped in stragglers and waifs and strays, kind of like.
You can call him a tail.
I feel like I did a fairly good job of like.
No, absolutely.
But hardcore's banned from here, right?
Oh yeah, no more hardcore.
Okay. That's great, nice for the hardcore bands.
But bring back Acid Shark.
That's great. Me and John already had a conversation. We keep on saying how more beer's becoming like the Bristol home of grindcore. I keep on having to go at John and be like, "You're gonna have more beer. Take that title off you. Gotta get the grindcore back, John. You gotta get them back."
Yeah. So yeah, I always kind of just like relied on other people to do it for me, and I was very happy with the results that came through. But then things kind of, I've been able to take a bit of a step back from the bar and the general day-to-day running of certain things, so I have a bit more free time, and the more kind of eagerness on my part to kind of start booking a bit more bands that I personally want to see or have never seen, and just kind of raising the caliber a little bit of the kind of stuff that we've been putting on.
Yeah.
So we really have.
So whilst we have done a huge spectrum of genres over the years, I'm now kind of like honing in on certain things that I'm like, it sells well, it gets a good crowd, and I'm just having fun with it, really.
Yeah. It's a good way to be, good place to be as well.
It's been a good couple of years, and I feel
You've
very...
done really well, mate. Honestly, like, I mean, I know I was only like a 2-bit promoter for a few years, but like it's you really put in the time and effort. You can really tell that you're like putting a lot of weight behind the kind of bookings you're getting and the amount of effort like you're really like putting into it. It's like
I think a lot of that has been helped by the fact that the longevity of me being here and the reputation that's been built up.
You got the rep. You got the rep, mate. You got
so
the rep. It's the
I
Gryphon.
do,
You got the rep. Like it's 14 years now. Like people know where this place is.
Yeah.
Maybe when I was doing it for you, it's still a little bit earlier doors. It's like people are like, oh, what's this pub? Like where is it? Like what's going on? Like you know what I mean? There's still a bit of that going on. Where it's like now it's like the Gryphon is really cemented as part of the Bristol scene. You know, like people know where this.
So
place
I
is.
do have that as part of my leverage in negotiations with bands and the kind of the
So
bigger.
the bands actually know, like the Gryphon.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I mean, some bands I do have to convince. I've approached some big bands fairly recently, and they're just like, one, we've never heard of you. We've been to Bristol, but we don't know where you are, what you are, how big you are.
You know, that shit place
as a
just played
venue.
O2 when you're there.
Yeah. And then just trying to convince them, yes, it is a living room space. It is only 50 cap, but
That can be really good too, though.
Yeah.
well, absolutely, and that's
Intimate show.
some of the bands you do have to convince because they're like, oh, we won't play anything less than 200 cap, and I'm just like, well, I will pay you the same amount to play a 50 cap than you would get for a 200
you get
cap.
to be right there.
And you'll have a much more intimate experience.
Exactly.
So it's really no difference on their part because they're still getting paid what they would
amount.
expect.
Yeah.
But it's a more intimate experience for the punters and the customers as well
Of
to
course.
kind of see these bigger
Those are
bands
the kind of shows that
right
people
in your
remember.
face.
literally right in your face,
Like-
which is
like-
great.
Just to, like, I'm going to use, because I know this more from hardcore punk than from anything else, like the amount of times that people still talk, like when we had Paul Collier on interviewing him, you know, and he's talking about like, you know, I saw this band when they just played like a warehouse in Leeds, or like I saw this, like it's always the smaller intimate shows that are the ones that people then talk about going forwards, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, sure, you saw them at the O2, but remember that time that they played, you know,
50
like,
people to
you know,
the
50 people in the fucking thing, like people, like, and that's, I think for any genre really, but like it's where you see that a lot more, and you know, like some of the stories I have of some of the bands I've seen back in the day that have played like really small venues, and then I say it now, and like the younger kids are like, oh, wow, you saw them like, you know, play like a 50, 100 cap, like small venue. I'm like, yeah, like it was really great, and it was.
Yeah.
I like that the bigger bands are now starting to do it as well. Like Megadeth last year, they did what was it, Vic and the Rattlesnakes. Now, if you're a Megadeth fan, you would obviously know there's going to be Megadeth. Yeah. But it was similar to this. You know, it was about 50 people there. Yeah. They came out and just did Megadeth set and toured the place apart, and they're like, why not? You know, we started there.
Yeah, so I really respect bands for doing it. Like, there's a great, I mean, listeners may or may not know them, but they're kind of Cancer Bats. They're from Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they did it. They've done it a few times where they've toured in UK and Europe, but they do basically like a pub tour. Like they don't play, like they could easily play like the Fleece and sell it out, they could play whatever and sell it out, but they literally just did like, we're doing a pub tour, we're not playing big venues, and it's, you know, like only going to cost like £10 a ticket, and like they
come have fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this Cancer Bats, you know, been going for years, and they're fucking awesome, and like, you know, fucking like hardcore punk rock.
I
kind
saw
of stuff.
their Black Sabbath.
Yeah, I saw that at 2000 Trees. I've seen it before as well. Bat Sabbath.
Yeah,
they're really good.
They're
so
fun.
They did that. So they did 2000 Trees last year, and they did Bat Sabbath and played obviously as Cancer Bats on the stage. Yeah, so
and the side project with Bullet as well.
Actually,
Cool
because he got on stage with them, because that was the same day that Bullet of My Valentine were headlining 2000 Trees. So
nice.
Yeah, so they did a couple of Max Green songs.
Getting back to the kind of point though, I was talking to Kill All Gentlemen, who I saw here. Fucking excellent band. I actually put, if you listen to the last episode, their 2024 album, I put in my top 3. It's fucking incredible. It's so good.
Yeah.
So good. But like, I got talking to them afterwards, a lovely bunch of lads, and they've said, you know, something like this is way more intense than like playing for 2,000 or 3,000 people, because like someone's face is like an inch away from you.
People
and
are
they're looking at you
right
going, what are you doing?
There's no stage, you're just right on the floor, like looking at people, like Raised by Owls, like Fair Shout, like they shouted out a bunch of times, like, you need to support places like this, like, because they were saying, where are they from? I can't remember where they're from, but they were saying there's somewhere. It was like their local kind of metal rock venue had shut down, like, or something, and they were like, you know, you've got to support places like the Gryphon, there's places like this that make scenes and stuff, and they're right. You know?
Yeah. How are you finding that scene as a whole? Like, are you finding over the years people declining, like COVID fucked things up, or things looking up, or?
It's very tricky. It's like anything really. Lots of phases coming in and out. People go through, I'm going to get into heavy metal, and then they dies down. And they find something else to go and listen to. and they go, oh, yeah, in my youth I used to listen to that, and like I don't anymore, kind of thing. So it's
Metal's not a phase.
well, exactly. I was told once that when I first started getting into metal that it was a phase, and that was
My grandmother was
I think that was about
a phase.
20 years ago.
20 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, now I own a heavy metal pub, and I'm like, it's definitely not a phase. I think I'll stick to it for a little bit longer. But it's it does come and go. You do get your peaks and troughs with it a lot. Popularity does kind of wave and throw through the mainstream as well. As we've seen recently with stuff like Gajira being at the Olympics and all of that kind of stuff.
Hate to bring them up again. Knock Loose playing things like Jimmy Kimmel and
yes,
stuff like that.
Yeah. And then it suddenly hits the mainstream and everyone suddenly gets into heavy metal and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you actually see like differences in tickets for upcoming gigs after something big like that?
Not especially, no. I think it's quite a closed scene in terms of the UK anyway, because all of that happened over in America and France. Because I think France have a very different view on heavy metal than the UK does. America, there's a huge metal scene in America, but it's still very underground.
There's no metal band that's played the Super Bowl, for instance.
Yes,
that's what I mean. Yeah, it's crazy.
But if you are then suddenly a metal band on someone's talk show, and it blows up worldwide, the whole world is going, this is absolutely fucking brilliant. And then all of Christian America's like going, no, turn it off. Save the children.
My son was crying. My son was crying watching Knock Loose on Jimmy.
And you're just like, and it's quite infuriating in that respect. I mean, in terms of the UK metal scene, we've obviously got our history of it, and it was founded and established here for the most part. And I think when it does hit mainstream for us, at certain points we're like, well, obviously it should be on TV.
I mean, also then you've got the changes within genres within heavy music as well. So like, metalcore become more popular, hardcore become more popular, deathcore become. So then there's that switch you kind of got to do as well, where it's like, okay, cool, black metal is maybe not as popular, but like if I put on a deathcore show, then all these kids are going to show up because they're all listening to deathcore at the moment, so that's what they want to see. So I guess there's a bit of that switch as well around. Like,
and it's finding the right balance really to kind of cater for, because it is infinite genres pretty much. So trying to certainly book shows that you obviously want to fill a capacity for. It's finding bands and genres that is going to get that.
You could do everything, from folk, Norwegian black metal all the way through to pop, skater punk. Like kind of like more like Blink 182, Sum 41 stuff. And like if you can find that those bands, that balance, people are going to show up and they're going to sell out a show. So,
but even within the genres itself, it's difficult because you're just like,
which bands are the ones that people want to see, which ones are the ones that they don't.
You'll book a gig and it's sold out in a couple of hours, which is amazing. And then you'll book a similar genre show like a few weeks later or a month later, and then you're struggling to sell pre-sales.
So when I was promoting for you, I still remember it was, and the reason I remember this, it was 2 gigs within like about a week of each other, and me, the what were they called, Merciless Precision, the old school, very famous kind of cultedly famous grindcore band from kind of Bristol area. They were very big. They supported Napalm Death. They did a bunch of stuff. Great guys. I still know a couple of them. And they got hold of me and said like, oh, we've got this band from, it was like Romania or something. They've got this tech grindcore band. They want to come over. We want to main support them. Blah blah blah. Right. And I was like, yeah, cool. I'll put that on. Instantly sold 60 tickets. This is when we're still trying to cram 60 people in here, not 50, which we don't do anymore.
We had legal reasons. A bit more space back then.
So, and literally straight away just sold 60 tickets like it was nothing. Blah, blah, blah. Everyone shows up. Everyone has a great time. The bands have a great time. Everyone's moshing. Great night. Great time for the pub as well. Everyone's there. Everyone's drinking, having a good time.
Exactly what you want.
Then Paul Collier got on, and this is obviously this was before, but like the gig was like about a week later. Paul Collier had got on hold of me, the guy we had on
Park Park,
when he was doing promotion, and he got Brotherhood of the Lake, who like this hardcore band from Plymouth, who had just supported like Gallows. Their album had just been reviewed in Kerrang magazine. They got like 4Ks, like all this, and I was like, oh shit, this is like quite
That's
big.
pretty big.
I went to John. I was like, and obviously they had a rider. Like none of these other bands, none of these grindcore bands had any. There was nothing like that. It was like maybe a free beer or something, whatever. They got a rider, they need at least 200 quid, they need some food, they need waters. John very kindly provided the food and drinks for nothing, and then me and Paul Collier had to set up the money. And we set up the show, we're promoting it, blah, blah, blah. It's like, brother, like, you're going to play Bristol. It's like, they're on a tour, like, they just supported Gallows, they just done all this. Sold fuck all tickets. Me and Paul Collier, 200 quid in the hole, like, looking at nothing. Like, you know what I mean? This is like...
What has happened?
While the Romanian tech grind band that no one had heard about was like, that just sold out, and it was just sorted and it was done. Yeah.
On the rider note, bring up an interesting one there. I'm guessing because you get quite big bands in here now.
Yes.
I'm guessing people come with riders, right?
Yeah.
Not that often, maybe, but
for the most part, I mean, I offer I have the huge advantage of being accessible to beer and stuff like that, and so I can kind of whip it up fairly quickly.
You could write off some stuff and get some bottles and cans
for the most part, as standard, I offer a rider. So beers and water so I call it wet rider. So it's beers and water. That's what the bands get, and they're happy with that. A lot of bands don't expect that at all, and they're just like, oh, we didn't even know we were going to get anything.
You've got the fridge in the old kitchen now as well.
Yes.
I remember. You basically
So
keep that stocked, and then
since I closed,
tell the bands you're allowed to have a free time with it.
Since I closed the kitchen down in 2019, the kitchen now operates as a green room, so the bands will keep all their personals there. There's a fridge there, they can chill out there and just prep for the show. So I can fill the fridge full of rider and that kind of stuff. And it's just a nice thing for a venue to do, because you do get so many bands coming through that will send riders out to venues, to promoters, and then they turn up to a venue and they don't have anything, and they don't even have like a green room. They're just like, we'll stick you in the toilets or something. And they're just like, oh, okay. But if you don't ask, you don't get.
True,
so for the most part, I at least like to have the basics. Bottled water, of course, because it gets sweaty in here for bands. And the beer is decent enough.
Do you break your rule of like craft and real, or is this, if they say I want bud, do you get
no, they get cases of Orangi Boom, which even in itself, a lot of people just like, actually that's quite a nice Dutch beer. So,
but you're absolutely right. Like, I mean, obviously I've been in a load of like starting out bands and stuff. Like, if we rocked up to a pub and the person was just like, there's a fridge there, go crazy, have some water, have some beer, we'd be like, wait a second, what? Like, you're giving
what
us,
you mean? What?
You're giving us free drinks? Like, what's happening? I don't understand. So,
that's really cool. That's a nice perk.
Because I remember in the long before I had the pub, I used to be a music photographer.
You did,
and I used to be a photographer for my best friend's bands. And the amount of tours we would go on, and I would just like sit as close to the fridge as I could get. I'm not in the band, but I would have access all areas, passes, that kind of thing, and just like, great.
Cool.
So I would try not to drink all of their rider myself, but these absolutely. But these were the bigger venues, so this was like the O2 Academies and stuff like that. So, and a lot of arena shows that they ended up playing, which was absolutely fantastic.
What was their name again?
So that's Templeton Peck. So they're from Birmingham, and I think they used to be called McFly. They had to change their name for obvious reasons. I still have a poster somewhere. Still have a poster somewhere.
That's new. I hadn't known that before.
For a McFly gig, I think.
You went to a McFly gig
in 2000. It was early 2000s, 2001, 2002, maybe.
Is that from Back to the Future? Is that what they're calling their?
Yes.
Back to McFly.
I don't know whether McFly called their band.
So when the big McFly then kind of took over and took the name and ran away with it, my mates obviously had to change their names.
I wonder if they named it after that as well. Or?
Probably, I would imagine so. So my mates in the end chose Templeton Peck, which is the actual name for Face from the A-Team.
Oh.
That is the cultural reference.
That's quite cool.
If you need them.
Yeah.
Some the 80.
And I followed them from playing tiny little pubs.
Well,
like
some of the photos still come up on your reel downstairs. So I remember you showing me a bunch back in the day. Obviously, like a bunch of your photography stuff. I always thought it was really cool. Yeah.
So how did you transition from photography into owning your own kick-ass bar?
Money, basically. Music photography is incredibly competitive, and certainly over the past 15, 20 years, technology for cameras has just gone insane.
So the more money you can chuck at it, the better you can get.
Yeah. Mate, some of these big shows, you've got people flying drones around taking...
Yeah, absolutely. I mean...
you know what I mean? Getting shots and stuff.
I mean, a lot of it is, you have to know what you're doing to be using a piece of equipment anyway. So it doesn't matter how much money you've thrown at a decent camera and that kind of stuff. If you don't know how to use it, then it's not going to do anything for you.
Were you ever trained in it? Was it just something that you enjoyed doing?
It was just something I enjoyed doing and picked up on. And I met these guys working my first bar job, which was at Birmingham Academy. I was at university at the time, so I was halfway through my university degree, and I'd pretty much spent my student loan from the first year, and I was like, I need some pocket money. So started looking around for jobs, and bar work was a thing that came up. And I got thrown in at the deep end on a Friday night at Birmingham Academy, which...
Carling Academy.
It was the Carling Academy.
Before they became O2 Academies.
It was the old one opposite Toys R Us.
Carling, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was opposite Toys R Us on Dean Lane in Birmingham.
Wow.
And it was sandwiched between Scruffy Murphy's, which was a metal bar on one corner, and then Costermongers, which was an underground metal bar on the other side. So I was surrounded by these awesome metal venues.
That's a stroke of good luck, really.
Absolutely, yeah.
Birmingham Birmingham, I mean, I know nowadays it's maybe not quite there, but Birmingham historically had
it started Black Sabbath, so you know.
It had such a fucking good scene,
Yeah, so I was at university from 2002. I started, and the metal scene at the time, I think there was 6 or 7 different venues that catered for heavy metal and rock and stuff, and it was incredible. There was an amazing venue called Excels, which was across, I think, 5 floors.
Nice.
So you go in at ground level, and then each level you went up, it was a different genre of music, and it was a really cool concept, and it was 10 minutes walk from my student digs, so I was just like, I'm going to be spending a lot of time here.
I used to live in Hatchet for a while when I first moved to Bristol. They had multi-floor, different metal on each one.
Yeah.
I think that's stopped now, but anyway, sorry.
But Excels unfortunately got closed down within 6 months of me being at uni. Not anything I did, but they had started.
Sure.
You closed down an entire club.
Sitting there drinking from the fridge, going, "Oh, that's fine, right?"
No, they unfortunately got a bit of a reputation for underage drinkers in there. So I think some girl had gone missing. Her parents called the police, and they found the daughter in Excels, and I think she was only 14, 15 or something. So they closed that venue down.
And that's why, listeners, as uncool and as unrock and roll as on a metal as it sounds,
bring your ID.
Like, people need to ID, because otherwise the council will just shut you the fuck down. Like, you've got to ID.
And we like metal bars too much, so we don't really like you. So.
So at the early days at the academy, that's how I met my best friends. We all worked behind the bar. They were in a band, handed me a flyer and said, come to one of our gigs. And I think the first gig I went to of theirs was Bar Academy, which is literally adjoining, I think only 150 cap venue. Yeah. And I had one of my first camera phones at the time and just took a couple of photos on that. And they're like, oh yeah, these are cool, these are cool. And then I think a couple of weeks later, I bought my first digital camera and just started following them around and say, I'll do your photos. Yeah. I think they didn't even ask me, like you just turning up. I'll do that.
John, I'll put on the gigs for you.
So I just followed them around, just like pretty much every gig they played, from tiny little dives like this to
they got pretty big.
They got pretty big.
Yeah, because I even remember that name from back in the day. I remember Templeton.
What did you post the photos on back in the day? Because Facebook and all those weren't there.
Flickr.
Wow.
Flickr. Yes. FLICK.
Danny's just pulled a remembrance space.
Yeah. Yeah, so most of my photos, well, it was MySpace before Flickr
Yeah.
turned up. So MySpace
Yeah.
I was using quite a lot. And then most of my music photography ended up on Flickr. And then it was Facebook kind of took over from all of that.
Yeah.
So.
And then how did you transition from that to...
So, in terms of trying to follow a bit of a career in music photography, if you want to be better known and better seen, you need to sign up to like a publication. You need to have that press accreditation for someone that is more established than just your name.
Right.
Unless you are
So like
obviously like
a Metal Hammer
unless you
or
are
a
shit hot
Kerrang.
as an individual
Right,
and you've
yeah.
obviously honed in on your art and you're well known for it, and there are some incredible
People coming to you
Yeah.
just because...
Yeah.
there
you're
are
you.
some incredible music photographers out there who are standalone on their own, have
Really,
their
yeah.
name.
And the publications go
Yeah.
after them and,
Yeah.
and basically chase them for their
But if
photos.
you are, like I was at the time, a bit of just an amateur novice, but had managed to build up a decent portfolio from just attending these gigs and festivals that my mate's band were playing, I could have gone to a publication and said, this is what I do, kind of sign me up, send me off to gigs and that kind of thing. But you are relying a bit more on them to kind of want you to do stuff.
Right.
So it's very tricky being in a competitive market, because by that point, mid 2000s, everyone was picking up a digital camera. It became pretty prolific.
Yeah.
Everyone had a camera phone, so it was very
Starting to go
very
down that
ubiquitous,
road.
and everyone
Yeah,
was
yeah.
doing it. And everyone was just kind of like giving away photos for free as well. Whether they were any good or not is a different matter.
Yeah.
And so a lot of publications were like, yeah, we'll grab the free ones.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
And not even give
Saves
credit
us
to
a
the
load of money
photographers, that kind of thing.
on our budget, basically.
Yeah.
We'd have to pay a professional photographer.
Yeah.
So
And you're also then relying on the wage from the publication, which could be pitiful.
And I guess that could do it on commission as
Yes.
well. And
Yeah.
So however many
If they're not happy
more
with your
photos-
work, they're not going to pay.
They're never
you
gonna be
that
happy,
kind
are
of
they?
thing. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So it got to a point really with one. I'd finished my degree at this point. I have a degree in geology.
I was just saying, what did you
so-
do?
Yeah, geology. I always forget that it's geology that you have a
You
degree.
study rocks.
I studied rock.
Gone from rock to that.
Rock to
Yes. Well done, Danny. Well done.
It's the natural progression. So
I've got time for that. You need a teacher for that. You need a teacher for
Rocks
that.
and metal.
so I'd graduated, but I was bored of rocks at that point.
Too soft.
So I was just like, yeah.
Can I ask quickly, why geology? Was that just a young thing of just like, I don't know what I want to do? Like
It
let's fucking do
was a cool thing to do.
Or was it like, I'm going to be Indiana Jones?
Mr. Indy. No, not quite. I grew up in the countryside, so I've always had nature at heart.
Right.
And I've just loved natures and landscapes and all that kind of stuff.
the history
So
of
my-
those kind
yeah,
of places. And
My
stuff.
childhood was climbing mountains and falling in rivers and
Yeah.
out of trees. And
Yeah.
Cutting yourself in rocks.
Yes, yeah, I'm literally covered in scars from when I was from the age was between probably about 4 and 9, just covered in scars from falling out of trees and falling into rivers.
It's
Nice.
like, I
yeah.
want to kind of study where this all comes from and that kind of thing. Okay.
And
that's
then after school, went to college, went to sixth form, and you had to pick a few subjects to do. So for A level, I chose geography because I enjoyed that at school, art and biology. Because at the time I wanted to be a landscape architect.
good. Really?
So in order to progress with landscape architecture, you needed an A level in biology.
Really?
Yes, because you're dealing
Because you deal with plants and animals. And
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
that makes okay.
You're dealing with
just-
very delicate ecosystems
right,
and that
of
kind
course.
of stuff. So you
that
need
makes
to know.
sense now. So
You
you
just
have
come
to
in,
know.
put
Biology
concrete down and kill
plants.
everything.
Yeah,
That's not
yeah,
good.
pretty
Yeah.
much.
Okay.
That makes sense. It does.
So I did
actually.
biology for the first year, which was an AS year. I was one of the guinea pig years for that. So basically, you would choose a subject, drop it after a year. So my extra subject was geology. So geography, geology, natural
Yeah.
stuff to
Yeah.
go together. Did biology because you needed that.
Yes.
After my first year, I got an E for biology, so I was just like,
Go on, that
best not. Let's rethink my life goals.
Yeah.
So I dropped biology and took on geology as my full A level, which turned out to be my best subject. And that again was a natural progression to university to kind of follow through with that. And it was great. I absolutely adored it. You got to travel all these field trips. I spent 6 weeks in Spain in my second year.
That's cool.
Just in the middle of nowhere, just told to go and look at rocks for a bit.
There you go.
And that was my best mark for my entire degree as well, which
Take your little hammer.
good. So take a little. Well, I was told by one of our lecturers the best way to do geology is to get a bottle of wine and a sandwich and just go and sit on a hill for an hour with binoculars.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, let's do that.
Is that geology or is this like philosophy? Like I feel like that's what a lot of the French kind of philosophy school is, just like, you know, go sit on a hill.
I did that in Spain for 6
Van
years.
Gogh did that. He painted the same fucking hill for like 3 years. You know?
Yeah.
So sitting there studying rocks, you qualified,
and then I was just like,
in your life.
Bit bored of that, but by that time I'd been working at the academy for 2 years at that point. I'd become a bar supervisor within the first year, so I was in charge of, more often than not, one of the larger bars in the academy, which held 14 members of staff. So on the gig days, you've got a full bar of staff, you've got a full venue of 2,500 people. I just absolutely just fell in love with the social aspect of it, getting paid to see my favourite bands that were touring through.
Nice perk,
for 3 years.
And being staff manager, I guess you could probably pick which ones you were at as well, right?
Yes, yeah.
I think just to quickly say, like, for people who are listening, like, who have never worked bar work before, because I worked bar work obviously for many years when I was younger. There is like. There's a reason why it sounds a bit pretentious, I guess, slightly, but there is a reason why, like, weirdly, like, service bar work, like, still has its thing. There is something about it that, like, especially when it's included with music as well, like, it brings a whole aspect into it, and there's a real, like, fun and like I
get that.
I did pub and club work in Bristol for about 8 years. Like around different pubs and clubs, and like it was like, I mean, it's mad, and you know, I'm kind of crazy. Definitely wasn't. I was in my early 20s, so it was fine. But like, there's like there's a rush to like serving heavy like club work and stuff, and like, you know, working like really busy bars and things. Like there is a rush to it.
I've always said that I actually like to do it for a while because I'm very social being.
It'll teach you a lot. It'll teach you a lot.
Yeah.
Tolerance is one of them.
Yeah, how many times you've gone and guys go home? It's 4 in the morning, you're fucking drunk, go home. I know. One more
you suddenly realise why, like, every time we go somewhere, I'm like, with the bar staff, like a drink. Because this is like, whether they're running a wet bar or not, it's like, you can have it after work or whatever, but like, pretty much that's indoctrinated. Like I know what these people are having to do kind of day in, day out. So it's like, if I've got the extra money on me, I'm like, the bar staff want a drink. Let's sort that out. A minimum, like, you know.
Always appreciated.
I almost got like a standing ovation I was at the Mother's Ruin. And it was just like, you know, having night with the mates and stuff. It might have been with Danny, and it might have been with you and Kieran. Remember when we went out? Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, before you guys got really ill. And anyway, so at the Mother's Ruin, obviously I know a few people from the Mother's Ruin. I've actually tattooed them and stuff as well. And anyway, so like, I'm at the bar, I buy the drinks and stuff. I go, oh yeah, I know you guys aren't like a wet bar or anything, but you guys want a drink like behind the bar.
What do you mean by a wet bar?
So a wet bar is where you
just
can
beer.
drink while you're working.
Yeah, just.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So you can drink. So the Gryphon is a wet bar. Like at the other places, but they do it where you can only drink.
But it can also be defined as whether a bar sells food or not. So the Gryphon is also a wet bar in that we only serve drinks. We don't serve food.
Yeah.
You used to serve food. Cracking burgers.
Yeah. So we were a wet and dry bar. So dry is when you serve food as well.
I see.
As well. But yeah, like the way I always like the mostly why I use that term is that like certain bars let bar staff drink while they're working, certain bars don't, obviously for various different reasons. So that's
you wouldn't, I imagine now.
Yeah. But anyway, so like I said, like, you know, the bar staff and all the fucking like. The poor Mother's Ruin lot, they must have to deal with so many students and so many dickheads and all this kind of stuff. Like, literally, I got thank you'd by, like, 3 members of bar staff just for buying them a beer. And they were like, thank you so much, mate, really appreciate that. And it's just like, yeah, it's fine. Like, it's not but they have to deal with so many. It's one of those poor fuckers working for them. It's just like, obviously, I never get bought a drink by any, because everyone's just either a broke student or just a.
Was I have water because I had 10 pints at home?
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck.
But yeah. So then, can you give us a bit of a thing of like where? how does this lead you to Bristol, and how does this lead you to the Gryphon?
Because you're not from Bristol, right?
No, I'm not. I've moved house every 5-6 years of my life. Growing up.
Apart from now.
This is
You're Bristol through now. You're staying for good.
Yeah.
your mate. This is the longest I've lived anywhere before.
You still don't do cider. That's good.
Yes, I hate cider.
Or look like Colonel Sanders trying to sell cider.
So yeah, growing up, moved house quite a lot. So I was born in Zimbabwe.
Were you?
Dad was a vicar. My mum's a teacher. Family are English, emigrated to Zimbabwe in the early 80s. So my dad was responsible for a few churches out there. So Church of England, Anglican, got sent off down there to go and sort some churches out. And then halfway through living there, I was born mid-80s, and we returned to the UK.
So you actually have a passport from Zimbabwe?
I was technically Zimbabwean up until the age of 10, but I was on parents' passport at that time. Had I have gone back at any point before
18?
Yeah.
Would it been that, and then you could have...
I think it was like a 7-year window. So if I'd gone back before the age of 10, I would have. It would kind of rolled over. There's also some weird little rules going on there. But I was on a parent's passport at that age, because I was 3 years old when we left.
But you were born out there, though.
But I was born there.
You were born out there.
So born out there, and then stuff happened in the UK to bring my family back. Again, just sorting churches out mainly. So it was Dad's job that kind of moved us around everywhere.
It's interesting that kind of like vicar job moved you around that much.
I was just going to say
it. Feeling that you kind of end up in one place and then that'd be it.
The vicar of the village and stays there forever.
Yeah, I mean, that's the classic thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
The vicar of the village.
The more I got to know my dad over the years, I think he liked to pick difficult parishes to kind of deal with.
Like kind of have a bit of a challenge and not just like
to kind of go,
Milbury on Sudju, and then he just stay there for 60 years, you know.
It would either be him saying, I want to get out of here and go somewhere else, or the church would send
kind of
him,
almost like military, kind of, it's a bit of a military vibe to it then, almost, of like getting moved around a lot to like different places.
I do have an older brother and sister who have obviously moved house a hell of a lot more than I have, and I think they've lost count of how many times.
He does breed it into you. I mean, I got moved around a lot when I was younger, and I think that's definitely something that like it kind of sticks in you almost, of like you get itchy feet, and then you're like, oh well, I want to go do this, I want to go live there, I want to go so because what I'm saying.
So between there and Birmingham, when I was at uni at Birmingham, so I moved house a couple of times between then.
Where were you based roughly in the UK then? So you moved a few times, was it all around the same area? Or?
Yes, from Zimbabwe I moved to the Lake District, so that's where my childhood was. So that's where I was falling out of trees and climbing mountains.
The Lake
Getting scars from rocks.
I did Scarfell Pike when I was 7 with my dad.
So all the way up by... because the Lake District's...
Cumbria.
Yeah,
so just before you hit Scotland.
Yeah, exactly. It's all the way up.
Very nice part of the world.
Very lovely.
Absolutely gorgeous. That's where my heart is, and that's where.
Really, is that you still feel that then in you? That
absolutely, and that's where I got the love for geology as well, and just wanting.
I can see that. I've been to the Lake District once. It is genuinely stunning. If you haven't been to the Lake District and you get like you want to walk in holiday or something like that, like go. Like it genuinely is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. And then from there, it was quite a drastic change of pace. We went from the Lake District in the middle of nowhere down to the West Midlands, next to Dudley. So I was there for a few years. Then went to Worcester. So I was in Worcester for a bit. Finished secondary school in Worcester. Did sixth form in Worcester.
Worcester is slightly further south than there.
Yes,
I don't know English geography, I think.
So Worcester's about an hour north of Bristol.
Okay.
And it's about an
half an
hour
hour
south, southwest of Birmingham.
Yeah, okay, I'm with you.
And so after Worcester, I went to university in Birmingham. So my two best friends, I met.
Give them a shout out if you want. They can listen as well.
Tom and Simon.
There you go. Tom and Simon, you better give us a like.
I met Tom and Simon in Worcester in 1997.
Wow. Wow.
And they are my best friends. And
Still to this day?
Still to this day, indeed.
Well done for that. Well done.
Rarely see them these days
As
because
the,
they've
as
got
the
kids.
Zoomers are calling it nowadays, the 1900s. Which is depressing that that's what they're calling it.
But having
Back in the 1900s.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's what's annoying. They keep on saying it like that. It's really. I've tattooed a bunch of them, and they're just like, "Oh, back in the." I'm like, "Yeah, in the 90s." And it's like, "Oh, in the 1900s." I'm like, "Yeah." Sorry, carry on.
That's all right. Yeah, so I met Tom and Simon in Worcester, and we were best friends in those times. And we always said at one point we wanted to live together. And after college, we all went off to different universities. So I went off to Birmingham. Tom came down to Bristol, and Simon went off to Colchester.
Oh, interesting.
My brother, a few years before, he's 7 years older than I. He moved down to Bristol for university himself.
Is this where the Bristol
So,
kind of
yeah,
connects?
so this is where Bristol comes in. So my brother moved down here. Tom was down here, and then when I graduated, I stayed in Birmingham for a couple of years because I was having a great time up there.
Right.
But you got the bug for on live music and metal.
Just bar work and stuff
It
up
sounds
there.
like, yeah.
And then Simon, when he graduated, he moved to Bristol as well. So
Ah.
got two best friends. and
everyone's
my
down in
brother
Bristol.
in Bristol.
Right,
and
okay.
they would try
Well, thank you, gentlemen, because the best bar in Bristol now exists because of you. So.
Yeah, the funny thing is, my brother had been saying for years I should move down, open up a metal bar, and as soon as I did, he had kids, and I never see him.
What a day, having kids like some kind of cunt.
Oh, you should do this. I'll be there all the time. And now we don't. But his eldest is 14 now, and bumped into them at gigs.
Nearly old enough to come in
Yeah,
here.
Yeah.
So they're venturing out to gigs now. So I'm encouraging them to come to some stuff here.
Good.
Which should be good.
So that's where their ties with Bristol come in.
So that's where Bristol
when
ties.
does
Did you
the
know anything about
move-
Bristol before that, other than your friends and your brother were here?
Yeah,
Was
just
there a scene here
just
before?
there was a scene. Yeah. So we had there was the Attic Bar, which is which used to be the Eclipse.
Yeah.
So the Eclipse was a metal bar, which is part of the Full Moon.
Yeah.
The bottom end of Stokes
Bottom end of
Croft,
Stokes Croft,
which is now
by the
Attic
Bear
Bar.
Pit.
So
Yeah.
the Eclipse was a metal bar. You had the Junction just
Yeah.
up the road from that, which is now number 51, the pizza bar.
Yeah, it was
Oh, yeah.
that. I used to go there all.
Yeah.
I've got stories about the Junction, so I used to go there all. It was like it was the dirtiest, roughest, crustiest punk place you could go to.
Yeah.
Never bought anything out of the taps because you'd end up getting sick. Ever. Always
Always
bought
had me a
bottles.
bottle.
The guy who was running it, I can't remember his name, but basically he was a really nice guy, but he was like insanely schizophrenic, mostly because of the amount of acid he was doing, and like basically every now and like he relied on this woman whose name I also can't remember, really sorry because it was years ago, but basically he'd have just these freakouts, and he'd have to go upstairs and watch his tank of fish. Like just upstairs to like chill out again, so she'd end up having to run like. But I watched so many like crust punk, oi
Punk and
bands.
hardcore is quite a big thing in Bristol, right?
I mean, this wasn't even hardcore. This is, I guess you call it more just the punk scene. Like
Yeah.
I used to walk in, and everyone would everyone said that all these older punk guys, totters, things like that, all these guys that know like the municipal waste lot, funny enough, and people like that.
Not a dull punk for our listeners.
My old tattooist John, and they were all part of this where I met all of these guys from. And I'm like 18 years old. What the fuck was the name of the murderer guy who killed people up in Leeds or in the park? The guy used to strangle women with. He used to kill women with a hammer. The fuck was he called?
Jack the Ripper.
No. I mean, no, what was he called? I can more say Jimmy Savile, but obviously that's Jimmy Savile. I don't know why, but like I can't remember what his name was. It's the guy who used to kill like he was
Used to
killing
murder
with
people with
punks
hammers.
and stuff. Up in the north, like Leeds. They're all from. And because a bunch of them were from there, they'd all decided I looked like him. So I'd walk in there and they'd all just scream like this like murderer, rapist guy's name at me, like every single time.
And you walk in with a hammer going, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. But no, sorry, decided I have a lot of stories about that place. Yeah, the Junction was something else. Yeah, now it's like some fancy student hipster
Yeah,
bar.
number 51.
Yeah, number 51, some fancy student hipster bar place. But yeah, back in the day, it was like, it was
dirtiest,
sticky,
grimiest,
grimy,
yeah.
but I saw so many punk. I used to just go there like every weekend. Like, to see
Well,
punk bands there
it drew the
all
crowd,
time.
so...
Yeah.
And then literally only 50, 100 yards up the road
Yeah.
from that, you had the Croft.
Yeah, the Croft, which is now Crofters Rights, which is now closed again. But yeah, the Croft, which we've talked about before. Yeah, played there.
Plenty of
times.
sweaty gigs in the Croft.
Loads of sweaty gigs in there. Seen some bands that are now. Saw Municipal Waste there for the first time, 2010, something like that. Like, you know, seen a bunch of bands in there that are now big. You know, bands. You know, like played there a bunch of times as well. 2 rooms.
That's the one just before the just after Turbo Island, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it's called
yeah,
Crofters Rights now. And then basically what happened is like a bunch of the people when the Croft kind of closed, a bunch of people moved there and they started what's now the Exchange.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
basically so
okay.
now the Exchange kind of took over from what the Croft used to be.
Yeah.
They tried to revive that in recent times, though, didn't they?
Maybe the Crofters Rights is fucked. I mean, I don't know what's going on there.
So
I can't
the
remember
back
that for a few
room
years.
of Croft is still the original gig room. But before it used to be
Right.
quite heavily built up inside. There was
Yeah.
the bar right next to the door as you went in.
Yeah.
The toilets
You
were
didn't
in the
have
middle of
toilets
the building.
downstairs, so you had the,
they were right in the middle, so you go between
Yeah.
the toilets to get
Yeah.
to the venue at the
Yeah,
back.
and then you had like a side other room. So like
Yeah.
like the band. I played the main room a couple of times, but then played the smaller side room. But then they'd have like all dayers where you know have both the rooms were both doing
Yeah.
bands and stuff, and you have a lot of stuff like that going on. Whereas now, I don't know what's going on. There's some weird stuff going on with Crofters Rights. It got shut down. They said it was refurbishments. It's obviously not. There's something weird going on with the money. That's
Right.
the rumours I've heard.
But the back venue room is still the same
Yeah, it's
original
still the
one
same.
that
It's
we
still
went
the
to
same.
gigs
Cool.
in
Yeah.
20 years ago,
Yeah.
which was
Yeah.
good. And they basically just ripped out the front of the building, so they got rid of the toilets. And now
Put the
they're
toilets downstairs. They're on a weird spiral staircase, which was never great because
Death
you
traps
get
get
like proper like metal like spiral staircase, death trap stair. Like if you've had like 4 or 5 beers,
You're going
like
down
trying to
those
go
head
downstairs
first.
to the toilets and the Crofters Rights now is like a whole fucking thing because you're like, oh, okay.
And if you're taller than
deep breath.
if you're taller than 5'3" as well,
Yeah.
you have to duck because the ceiling is so low.
I'm
as well.
5'5".
I'll be
I'm
going
hitting
down
my
on my
head on the
ass.
ceiling. Like, do you know what I mean? It's bad. Like, yeah, it was weird. I don't know what's going on with that. And then now it's got shut down, obviously, quite a few months ago. But anyway, sorry. So
But
So there was a bit of a scene around.
Yeah, so those were the venues
That's
that
the
side,
connect.
and
So-
then obviously the biggest one. So I moved to Bristol in 2008. So these are all the venues that were still up and
glad you're
happening
still here, by
back
the way.
then. Obviously the beer cellar was a big one as well.
I remember meeting the beer
oh,
cellar.
the beer cellar.
Yeah,
When you get a stein of green or a stein of blue.
Yeah, from the bins.
Yeah.
That they used to literally have bins behind there. Free shot with every drink.
Yeah.
Free shot with
It
every
was
drink.
fucking horrendous.
It all tasted like paint stripper, but you got a free shot with every drink. Good lord.
I stuck out the filter, actually.
I went in with a designated driver once, and they offered him a shot with his pint of Coke.
Yeah, because you get a free shot with every drink.
And he was like, "John, what do you want?" So I was like,
Red.
I'll have 2 Irish creams, thank you."
Do you know what I used to do? It's because all the shots tasted like paint stripper, like
Yeah.
all of them.
As did the pints.
I used to get a Murphy's, which is a knockoff Guinness. You get a Murphy's.
Whoa. We're going to do it, well, no.
And let's be real, Murphy's never got anywhere. That's where sells Murphy's now? In Ireland?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's an Irish beer.
You don't get it here anymore. Like the beer cellar was the only place that was selling Murphy's. I'll tell you that now. But anyway, because it would mask the flavour, I used to get the Murphy's because I could pour the shots into the Murphy's because it'd mask how horrible.
Make the head of it just
shots
fucking
were.
yellow or
Exactly.
green. Like,
Absolutely.
Let's just drink that.
it's horrendous.
Yeah.
And then, like, I had friends who worked there, and those bins, they literally, so when Tom was talking about the green and red, is like you could buy for like at the time £5, which was expensive, but you could buy like just a pint of green or red, and basically what it was like these big bins they had behind the bars with bin bags in them, where they, as far as I'm aware, they just used to tip all, like when they had like a little bit of spirits left in bottles, they just tip them all into these bins and then fill it up with basically just sugar water, these different coloured sugar
And then sell it to you and
then
wonder why
sell it to you for
everyone's
£5 a time, and you were never sure whether it was like, it could be 6% proof, it could be 9% proof, and you were never really sure what was going on. And it was
It was horrible. No matter how many pints of that shit you had, every time you drank, you went,
sugar and just
oh my
like,
god,
yeah.
a shot. Oh.
Yeah, exactly, the free shot. And yeah, I've thrown up in the beer cellar. I mean,
I've actually been knocked out in the beer cellar.
got knocked out
I got knocked out by
someone.
Yeah, so I was there at a gig. It was actually for my birthday, and a bunch of us went down. A bunch of friends that didn't actually know much about metal. I was like, "There's a metal night on. We'll go there. We'll have a bit of crack." And pit broke out. It wasn't even pit. There was something happened. But basically, I got punched from behind, just like this. I went down like a sack potato. Oh, you obviously know I can see that. Punched in the temples.
Tom punches
from
himself in the
behind.
head.
And I went down like a sack of potatoes. And as I was kind of coming to, I saw this kind of big fella walk off, going, "Oh fucking hell yeah!" I was like, "That was a bit weird. Why am I on the floor? This is fucked up." So I kind of tracked this fella just walking away from me, thinking he's the big deal. And he went into the bathroom. I went, "All right, I'll fucking have him then."
Oh,
So I went into the bathroom and went, "Think that's funny, do you?" He's like, I don't know what you're talking about." I was like, and for the slightest moment, I was just like, I can't confirm in my head if it was you, because you were about to die otherwise. I was like, "I'm going to put your head through this mirror." He's like, I did not and shit. I was like, maybe you did. I don't know.
See, my toilet experiences in the beer cellar are a bit different, because this is back in the days when younger listeners won't understand, but you used to have like not bathroom attendants, but guys that sell perfume and like
Those guys annoyed the shit out of me.
Mate, I love
Jesus.
them. No, I'm telling you, like, 'cause my bathroom experience would be me throwing up heavily in the toilets, and then just this like random like guy
like a
from
tissue?
this guy from like somewhere like like Zimbabwe, somewhere just going, "Have you thought about maybe changing? You're very young, like you seem like you got your life ahead of you. Do you want to think about like having this sort of," and me just like in the toilet going, "I think you're right. I need to think about my life." Just like
Also,
having a
would you
chat
like this
with him.
perfume for £4?
Exactly.
Yes, I would, bastard.
Do you want a spritz of cologne? It's like, okay. Like,
Does it get rid of the puke? Yeah.
oh, don't worry. I'll look in your wallet. It'll be fine. I'll sort out the money.
Yeah, I'm glad that's not really a thing anymore.
I miss them. I miss the guys.
John, they'll never allow it in the Gryphon.
No chance.
That's- That would be bad.
I'll do that.
Hated them. Hated them.
I used to get on with them. Yeah.
We divert
Anyway,
again.
sorry, we keep on getting sidetracked in the bit. So when did you?
Beer cellar was
when
here as
did
well.
Did you move to Bristol for the Gryphon, or did you move to Bristol before that, and then the Gryphon came later?
Yes, the Gryphon came later. So I moved to Bristol in 2008, having been pestered so much by Tom and Simon and my brother.
Yeah.
So I moved to Bristol. So I was like, okay, fine. So at that time, having moved house every 5-6 years of my life, I'd been in Birmingham for 6 years. I was like, sure, time to move on, find somewhere else. So we finally got our house together, me, Tom and Simon, up in
The long-lived dream.
up
from
in
uni.
Horfield. Yeah. So we got a nice house with a garden, and absolutely amazing. So we
shared
conversations
house.
we had at school. We're like, done it, lads.
Yeah.
Here we are.
We all live together. We've got a
Yep.
garden. Good luck getting that nowadays in Bristol, by the way. Just to say, fucking need 8 people to live in a house to get a fucking house with a garden.
3-bedroom house in Horfield with a garden. It was 900 quid a month between us.
Oh, sweet
It's
lord.
probably 900 quid each now.
Oh,
Yeah.
sweet lord, that's so cheap.
It was incredible, and our landlady was amazing as well.
Yeah.
So she looked after us. I still hadn't sorted my life out at that point, so I didn't know what I was going to be doing. Whether
Still
it was
interested
gonna
in
be,
geology, still interested in philosophy.
yeah, just kind of sticking my fingers in various pies and seeing what stuck really. And
That's a big move, just to move down to a different city and
then just
I think
just
if
see
you
what
start-
happens.
Well, once again,
Yeah.
like we said earlier, if you've moved a lot when you were
Yeah, you're
younger,
used to
like,
setting
it
up
kind
again
of,
and-
it sets it in your mind. It's not as like I've moved a lot, and like I had friends that used to say to me, "Oh my god, you're going to move, you're going to uproot like this, that, and the other," and I'd be like, "Yeah." Like it's not.
plus moving in
It's
with
scary.
friends who I'd already known
There's
for
that as
11
well.
years by
Yeah,
that point.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it was
that does help, definitely.
Yeah.
Take the sting
Yeah.
out
And
of
like
it.
you said, it's that dream coming together of like obviously you guys have known each other for so long. There's like finally actually getting to that, and you're all over.
Yeah.
it.
That's awkward the first night you're getting beers, kind of going, you know what, lads?
pub,
Done it.
Yeah, pub at the end of the road. So I by that point I've obviously built up my experience working in hospitality, being at the academy, working in a couple of pubs as well before I moved to Bristol, and it was just a case of bar work is usually one of the easiest things to find
Always
if you just
there.
want to pick up a quick wage packet. Do you need any bar work? Yep, sure, no problem.
There's always turnover in
yeah.
the bar industry. There's always work if you're willing to do it.
So there was a pub up in Filton which we're hiring, and I applied for there, and they were like, "Yep, you used to be supervisor. You seem to know what you're doing. Yeah, have at it." So this was the Plough up in Filton, sandwiched between the air balloon and at the time was the Horseshoe.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah,
I was there.
Yes, yeah,
They're all still there. It's like Airbus, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Tom's aeroplane stuff is coming in now. That's why you know where that is.
Yeah, so the Plough on a Thursday afternoon, we used to be rammed with the Airbus lot, so they would all come in for lunchtime.
Yeah.
And they were done.
They used to do food at one stage, didn't they?
Yes, yeah. They always did food whilst
I think they've stopped now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know, I swear. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. She's know a lot about this pub, Tom.
Air balloon's better, just saying.
Oh, no, it wasn't. No. Yeah. The Plough was better because I was there.
Yeah.
True. Yes. But you're not there now. So. Gryphon's obviously better.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I was just working bar work up at the Plough for a couple of years.
I imagine you have some stories from there.
Oh yeah. That's another 4-hour podcast for another time.
Really? That much?
Yeah, best not. Filton was getting into a bit of a rough state. A couple of notorious pubs had closed down within a month of each other, and their clientele cottoned on that the Plough was open late on a weekend. So
you were doing your shift, right?
Yeah. So we got all of that shit coming to us, and the pub had just been bought by new landlords as well, and they'd made me licensee because I was the only one at the time when they took over that had a personal license. So personal license is basically what you need to be able to run a pub or any hospitality, any hospitality premises that requires.
I thought that was on the premise rather than the person.
No. You've got to have someone.
You have a you have a personal one which you can carry around. So I had a personal license at the time. So when these new landlords came in, they made me the licensee.
Does that mean you get more risk, though?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Because if something goes wrong,
it's on you.
In theory, the police can go, you're the licensee person who was on site.
That's a bullshit thing to do by the bar.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
It literally gets
well, it
have to deal with it.
It was only meant to be an interim thing anyway until they found a permanent landlord to take over. So I was just just there being. So
you've got a lot of the risk and not a lot of the profits of being basically not being a landlord.
So I was
scapegoat in essence.
It was my name on the license, but I was running someone else's business for them.
Exactly.
And they had no blame.
And taking the responsibility for that
until
business.
they were trained up and got their own personal license. So the Plough became notoriously rough, and I was calling the police every weekend, Friday, Saturday nights, with fights, drugs, all of this kind of stuff kicking off. And
where was that again?
When? Where?
Plough, right? It was
Filton.
That the one in Filton, right? Okay, yeah.
One next door there was.
Yeah.
And it just got a bit too much for me to bear, and I took the new landlords aside. They came in for a site visit. They rarely did. Came in for a site visit, and I took them aside and said, "I need to get out of here because this isn't healthy for me.
Yeah.
It's not my business." That is, and it just got a little bit crazy.
You guys are taking the fucking piss, but obviously not saying you guys are taking the fucking piss.
And which they agreed with, and they were like, we'll sign over all of the license and all the paperwork to this new guy who was going to come in. That was well, it was his business that he was running into the ground that was getting all of this shit. So I was there having to deal with it in a illegal point of view, going, no, you can't do this, you can't do that, because I get the shit for it. But it was still his business, so I had to be a little bit loose on the reins to kind of let them do it. And he's like,
but we need to make money.
They were like, we want to do this, do that, and they were just
you can't be barring everyone. Why are you doing that? It's like because
they bought 10 pints. Exactly.
Yeah, but they're also doing like mainlining coke in the toilet and smashing
each other in the head with glasses.
I've broken up some horrific fights.
Oh God.
So your worst injuries haven't come from a mosh pit; they come from the Plough.
No, I've managed to come out unscathed from that as well.
That's
remarkably,
well
some of the fights that I got into the middle of, but they weren't going for me; they were going for each other. So you just stand in the middle of the
sort of
class.
You definitely sound a lot luckier than me, because the times that I've had to do that in my pub career, I'm the person who got into the middle of it and then somehow managed to get like glass in the back of the head. Yeah. Even though I'm not the person that they're going for.
And then they fuck up and go, oh yeah, it's fine, you're on the floor.
Fuck.
So I eventually approached the landlords there and said, I need to run away from this. Can you help with that?
I'm glad they did.
And they were just like, we'll help you.
Well, you could just, you did it in a nice way, but it sounds like you guys have just been like, fuck you guys, I'm not fucking doing this anymore, just left. Yeah. You know, just like sort out your own fucking licensing.
Yeah, but I saw an opportunity to talk to them and then kind of convey that I've been interested in opening up my own place and running it on my own as my thing, doing my thing, not what this other guy wanted. And they were...
I just said you already had the link with metal and...
Oh, is this actually actually having this conversation nice thing with them, this is what leads to this?
Yeah, this is then the transition to securing my own place, which became the Gryphon.
Amazeballs.
So they kind of
turn something so negative into positive.
Yeah. Hey, can I just say quickly, like for listeners, like this is why sometimes like being like really even if it's justified, like being really bridge burny doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like I've had that in my life as well, experiences of that where like I'm well within my rights. I could have turned around, put the middle finger up to everyone and said, fuck you, and fuck you as well. You're all cunts, I'm leaving, like you're all cunts. And then actually by trying to just go like, look guys, you know, having the meetings and the conversations going, look guys, look, I'm not happy with how this is going, blah, blah, like doing it the right way. Actually, not always, but it can lead to more opportunities because it shows people that you're not just like, you know, fuck it, like you burn all those bridges, then those bridges are burned.
Fuck
you
too.
I mean? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you talked to them about getting out and getting your own place.
Yeah.
How did they enable that?
So they're a private company, and their business model at the time was just buying up small properties, and so long as they had someone to go in and run the place, they were more than happy to invest in that.
How many people you were talking to were that level?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that worked out well.
Yeah. So these guys were responsible for a small portfolio of premises. So that's why they would rarely come and do site visits. So when this one opportunity where they did turn up and it's quite quiet, I kind of like took them aside and said, can we go for lunch sometime? Because I want to talk to you about some things.
Were they taken back by that, or was it
they were just like, when should we do this? So we went out for lunch and just had a bit of a chat really, and they wanted to find out why I was obviously unhappy with where I was and how we could try and transition it so that place was obviously getting to perform better with the new owner who's going to be running the business, whilst me getting my foot out the door so that I can leave fairly promptly. And it was they were intrigued by what I wanted to do. The business model for me was real ale and heavy metal. Nice. Back in my academy days, so back in 2002, 2003, I'd said back then that I wanted to run my own metal bar someday. Didn't know where it was going to be, how it was going to happen, or any of the logistics. It was just a nice little dream to have. And then suddenly I'm having a business meeting with these people that
they're like, we can give you a bar
that were capable of fulfilling that for me.
How open were they to this idea? Because like I know metal and real ale would probably scare a lot of property developers off.
They could see that I was more than capable of running a pub, because the Plough up in Filton is huge. It's a huge place. So they could see that I was capable of doing what I wanted to do.
Experienced stuff before.
And they were a little bit dubious about the heavy metal thing, because they were like, I don't know, but they could see that I was invested in the idea and wanted to challenge myself with that, but also trying to prove to them that it would be a sensible thing to do, and it's not going to turn into what the Plough has become at that time. So they said yes, we'll start and take a look at.
Fair play on them for taking the punt
what's
as
available.
Well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we looked at a few premises in and around Bristol that were available. We went out as far as like Kingswood. Loads of pubs out there were available.
If you went out
15
somewhere like
years
there, you
ago.
wouldn't have had the same success.
Well, exactly, and that's one of the conversations that we had. So these pubs were huge pubs, and
Big
it's the size of a pub that I would love to have now.
Yeah.
So long as it would be,
But it's
city
not central.
centre.
Yeah,
But-
exactly. Yeah.
So I mean,
Mistakes.
all of those. I think most of the pubs we looked at have been flattened and are all flats now anyway.
I'm not surprised. You wouldn't have footfall there.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
And then this little place in the city centre came up, and they said,
Bristol's oldest gay pub.
"Yeah, it was."
Yeah.
What, here?
Yeah. Bristol's
Is it?
oldest gay pub.
So the Gryphon was a gay bar from 1987 up until 2010.
So it was a pub for like quite a long time.
I mean, it's been a pub pretty much. The pub was built in 1873, so the building is 151 years
It
old.
was it wasn't the first, but it is. Yeah. No, it's the oldest though. Yeah.
Oldest gay bar.
Yeah.
I mean,
oldest,
that's.
Whether it's the first one, because I think that there might have been one before that got shut down pretty quickly.
There's the
Sure.
Elephant on St Nick's Market,
which went
Yeah,
obviously. Yeah.
which changed hands a few times.
Yeah,
so there's
yeah.
there's,
it's kind of-
there's small.
But it's the longest running oldest.
Yeah.
It was the longest running oldest gay pub in Bristol.
Because as far as I'm concerned, it's still a gay bar. So
No, of course,
yeah.
100%. No, I mean, no.
So 1987
just
till
to be very clear, discreetly to
2024,
our
so-
listeners, like, and this is, obviously I'm queer and I'm non-binary stuff as well. Like the Gryphon, I think I've even mentioned it before, but like, there is a big queer scene here at the Gryphon. There's big trans and non-binary presence here at the Gryphon, and John, that's something that John has always promoted and always.
And you know what? It's a really nice touch of it too, because like.
Yeah.
Since we've opened the door on the whole Gryphon thing and the Bristol metal scene and the whole podcast thing, I've been going to more gigs with people that identify as women or men or non-binary, everything.
Yeah.
And I don't care what they're into. They're lovely people. And everyone feels like they have a home here.
Yeah,
No matter what you're into, you could be straight, you could be anything, and you have a home here.
Funny
and I love
story.
that.
I still remember when I first started drinking here, and you were
Don't
getting
say
it a bit-
17.
No.
Obviously,
no, because you opened by the time I was 18. But anyway, it was more that you still get it with like these older gay dudes that come in and ask if they could all buy poppers behind the bar, because obviously that's what the original people were doing. And I still remember sitting at the bar, this other guy, hey love, like how's it going? You guys still sorting out like poppers and stuff? And John would just be there going, no, I'm really sorry, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
So, Gryphon used to be the oldest gay bar with all these people coming in looking for poppers. So,
Yes. Yeah.
how was that a good...
Well, how did you end up with it, John? So when does that?
So after the conversation with the guys that owned the Plough up in Filton, we looked at a few places, and this little pub came up, and they said, go and scope it out, go and do like a...
But it gave you extra freedom to...
The pub was still open and trading, so it was... this was an Enterprise Inns pub. It was very quiet. There wasn't a lot going on here, and Enterprise had put it up for sale.
Right.
So I came in with a couple of friends on I think it was a Saturday night, just to scope it out, and I think we were one of maybe 10 people in here.
I mean,
at full swing on a Saturday night.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
okay.
And I'll be honest, unfortunately, this place a little bit like, obviously, Old Market in Bristol. I mean, it's a little bit dead now, but it used to be like the heavy, like queer gay area. And so obviously, back in those days, that's when that would have been. Flamingos were still there. That was like all that was kicking off. So this place for that scene
Was a little bit
out of the way
Yeah.
for like everyone was just like, why would we come and drink here when we can just go up Old
Into the
Market?
main area.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me to come in and see, it was just a chance to kind of look at the building while it was open.
That's cool.
Was it the same layout? So like
it the
this
same-
floor
yeah, was it
kind
the
of
same
as well?
Yeah,
or-
everything is
bar here
exactly
as well?
the same layout, but it was just quiet. But for me, it was a blank canvas. So
So the quiet didn't put you off? So you were like, it's just that's not the theme of the bar, or
well, exactly. So I was picturing it as a heavy metal bar. I wasn't looking
And what
around.
you could do with the space.
Yeah. So to me, it was a blank canvas of what could I do with this place.
What did it look like? Because obviously there's a lot of blackened skulls and cool artwork all over the place. What was it like before?
So originally downstairs in the main bar, it was horrific, the decor in here. Considering how gay it was just dreadful.
Come on, letting the gay men down here. Normally run very sharp pubs. Have good curtains and good decor.
Downstairs main bar, it was peach. From like the around the room, so from waist level you got that dado rail, so from waist to floor it was peach, and then it was magnolia, and it was all silver trim, and then up at the back in the couple of snugs there, it was traditional like grotty pub carpet, like the stuff that looks like sick.
Lovely.
And it was just dreadful. And then up here in the function room, it was a brown carpet, and I think it was a maroon coloured walls.
Was it still a gig venue at the time, or what did they use this space for?
So this, well, there's again. That's another podcast.
I know what they were using it for. I know.
Yeah, the stories I can tell you about what's behind you, Tom, is
You ever come in when it used to still be a glass top? So behind you, Tom, it used to be a glass top. You used to be able to see down into the top of the bar.
And vice versa, you could sit around the bar and see what was going on that glass table while you were having a pint of gamers.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that doesn't exist anymore.
You know what?
So up here there is still a physical bar, and there were taps there, and they used it like it was a cocktail bar extension from downstairs for a while.
And didn't make the most of the space, really.
Yes, but they never used it for gigs and stuff in the way that I do. It was just like an extra room for them to do stuff, and then on the odd occasion they would have their specialist nights, which
So how much of this place is held up with cum?
Now look. Okay.
Just silence. So that's
I have seen the photos from what they used to do in here, and some of the old clientele used to come in and show me.
This is what we
used to do. Pictures from the bottom up.
From
top down.
From what they used to get up to.
You know what?
Fair play.
Gay people just need a place sometimes.
Absolutely.
Like be themselves.
So So
I'd prefer not to know what this bar is made of it, though.
Yes.
Oh, John, no. Anyway.
So decor was dreadful, and it was just a case of looking around, me kind of picturing the kind of potential, what I could do with various rooms, what I would do with the place, and then it was just a case of going back to these guys and
saying... Was part of it that you could have the flat upstairs, the house upstairs?
Yes. So the accommodation upstairs at the time... it was uninhabitable. It was absolutely dreadful up there.
Really?
It was derelict.
Was the owner living up there at the time?
No. It was a manager in at the time, and they didn't live here. But there was like
storage.
It was storage. It was derelict. It was horrible.
It's nice up there. You've got a really nice home upstairs.
Yeah.
People don't know that about the Gryphon. Like, you've got a really nice home upstairs.
Yeah.
It's you've really made it into your own. It's a very nice place.
Yeah. Absolutely. So it was then after just kind of going through ideas in my head, going back to these guys and going, let's.
Did you have the vision instantly? Kind of go, I can do this.
It's close enough to the centre. Like, obviously, for the listeners who don't live in Bristol, like, the Gryphon, we've mentioned it before, but it's so central. Like, it's so close to the Hippodrome. It's close to the O2. It's close to the Hatchet. It's close to
Beacon.
the Beacon Theatre. It's close to it's so easy to get here.
Yeah.
Like,
it's literally a 30-second walk, many does.
Yeah.
It is slightly off a beaten track because it can get quiet up this road with foot traffic.
It can.
So unless you know that we are here, then you're not necessarily.
There's a little bit of that. I mean, that's how I found you originally. It was a little bit random of me walking down this hill,
same actually,
basically, and then just like suddenly see. I'd heard that there was a. I think I might have told this story before, but basically the first time I ever came in here, I still remember it now. But like I'd finished. It was when I was working care work at the time. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I was trying to walk home, but I was walking to the centre, and I was walking down the road towards what is now the Beacon, and I'd heard from other friends that there was this just opened new. Oh, there's a Bristol heavy metal pub's opened, and I was like, oh, where is it? And they kind of explained, but I didn't really know where it was. And then I walked past, and you had the signs in the window, the paper signs that literally said Bristol's new heavy metal pub. And I remember I walked past, literally did a double take, and was just like, oh, it's here. And then came in. You were behind the bar. I sat
Big
down.
shock.
I sat down. I was like, pulled. You know, I had a bar stool because it was when you still had bar stools, like actually kind of at the bar and stuff. And I was like, oh, hey, dude. And you're like, hey, no, I'm John. I was like, oh, great. Oh, this is this. I'd heard about it. Blah. No, I'll have a drink, please. And of course, I only had my card on me. And at this point, you weren't taking card payments. And you were like, oh, well, there's a cash point down by Sainsbury's, which is all the way down past the Hippodrome and over past the fountains. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I went off and I got like 30 quid out and came back. And you were like, oh, you actually came back? And I was like, well, yeah. And you were like, a lot of people don't come back. And I was like, no, I came back. I've got 30 quid to spend. Let's do this. Like, sat here and got drunk and chatted to you.
In those early days, because we didn't do cash, we didn't do card until like 6 years in. So we were only cash only. And you would get so many people going, I've only got card, where's the nearest cash point? And I go, you direct them, and then you'd never see them again.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay.
I mean, you were a little bit unlucky with that because there aren't, even to this day, still, there's not a cash point that's actually that's close to this part.
I mean, it's close-ish.
I know, but it's
in the phone box.
It's far enough away where people who maybe aren't invested in going to like the heavy metal pub are going to be like, I'll just go somewhere.
But some of them would come in dressed as metalers and they looked happy to be here. That they'd found the place.
Home.
And then they were like.
I mean, I had a very similar one because my sister was over with her husband, and we were looking around, going for places to go and go for drinks and everything else. We ended up in the prison bar up by the prison, which they seemed to like, but we went to the Hatchet as well and really liked it.
Prison bar by the prison?
Oh, everything's nailed onto the floor. Like,
where is this?
Jesus.
The prison bar by the... I'm looking at you as well. Yeah, John?
If you... How do I describe it?
The only prison I can think of is on Gloucester Road. You mean the Golden Lion?
No. It's definitely central town. Maybe it wasn't a prison near, but it was just fucking rough inside there. Like literally the stools
everything was nailed down
to the floor.
I can't think about it's definitely not a prison.
I thought it was a prison. It's up by the bus station.
Is it the... Oh.
No, that's the courthouse is by there.
Oh.
The courthouse is by there. That's
so the lunch, bunch of arseholes coming out of there.
Yeah.
Everything in that bar is nailed onto the floor.
I can't think what pub that is. No. It's definitely not there anymore.
Probably not.
Anyway.
But then we went to the Hatchet and it was like, the Souls Bar in Bristol and so on and so forth. You know, we had fun inside there. Yeah. And she went home, and about 2 days after, I had exactly the same as you. I was walking down and went, why don't I know of this place? Yeah. I was going to go in, and I was like, oh, can I pay some? You were again behind the bar. I was like, yeah, well, I find that. It's like, yeah, we don't take cash. Like, fuck. Where do I get cash? Yeah. Central Town.
Sainsbury's, yeah.
How do I get there?
Yeah.
And then I came back as well.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. No, it was committed.
Nearly exactly the same.
Committed, yeah.
I was like, because like we never had anything like this in Ireland at all. Like, it blew my mind that this existed. I was like, there's a place where heavy metal is played and they do good beer. I was like, why?
Even though I'd already lived in Bristol by that point, like obviously I'd lived in Bristol before when I was a kid, but like I moved myself back when I was like 17. Like even then, like and obviously there was the punk stuff and things I talked about, but there wasn't like a heavy metal place. Like yes, there was a beer keller, but that was it. Like there wasn't. I mean, it's kind of the Hatchet, but then that was always a bit.
That was always a bit more rock.
Yeah, it was like it was never like. And then coming in here and again, John, like seeing like even from the jump that like you were talking about, like that commitment, like this is going to be heavy metal. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like this is what it's going to be. And as soon as I came in, I was just like, yeah, I'm in. Cool. Mm-hmm. Music's on, loving it. You know, some Machine Head comes on. We chatted about bands. We chatted about music. Put some stuff on. I was like, this is fucking sick. This guy's really cool. I'm gonna come back. You know what I mean? Like it was like Bristol just didn't have that. And also something I wanted to mention was I want to commend you for like the Southwest. Like even though obviously there are loads of metalheads and stuff in the Southwest, like. Compared to the Midlands and up north, it's always the metal scene's always been a bit of a slog down here. Like compared to you go up to Leeds, you go to Manchester, you go to fucking Liverpool, you go a bunch of these places like their metal scenes are just like Birmingham, even like it's just bigger, better. More people like metal. You get more places that
People
play metal,
energized
that
by
do
it.
metal, that do stuff. As soon as you start coming down like the southwest way, that seems to dry up. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's
And you
just
get to
not
Bristol,
as-
I'll stand out my arms like this. You know,
yeah,
look
but
bored.
it was just never like, you know what I mean? It's not as promoted. It's not as like,
don't
open.
know why.
Like
That's
it's just
why.
always been a bit of a divide in the country. Like, you come down this neck of the woods, it's all the fucking like it's all DJ kids and kids.
Yeah,
who
but
are
you look at
into
the
that and
actual
other.
big bands touring, like they'll do London, Glasgow,
Now they'll
Manchester.
do Bristol, but Bristol,
and
but that's
Bristol,
what I mean. Like, and in a weird way, I'd
You-
actually
you've
say that
generated
John is
this-
actually a part
yeah.
of that. Sorry, we're talking about you. And you're right here, but like, you know what I mean.
I would
actually
agree.
think that places like this are a part of the fact that like the reason that some of these bigger bands now know they can sell out Bristol is because there's places like the Gryphon that have
Look at Soil,
always
for instance.
bolstered the Bristol scene to make it worthwhile.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
like, I'm telling you right now, you go down any further than Bristol, there's nothing. All down in Devon. All you get, like, sure, you got like Boardmasters kind of in Cornwall once a year, and then you've got Burn It Down Festival in Torquay, and that's it. You go down any further than Bristol, like there's no scene. There's just nothing. It's dead. No bands, no scene. A bit in Plymouth, but the Plymouth scene's always weird because it completely destroys itself once all the students leave. So all the students move, they start bands, they make a scene, and
Then
especially now
leave.
the White Rabbit's gone in Plymouth, like that's gone, like it all went shit. Anyway, going back to
You are a huge
so-
part of the Bristol scene.
Yeah.
And well done.
Yeah,
Absolutely well
So
done.
when you first take over this place, John, like, I mean, obviously you've got this vision. How does that manifest then? Like, what
Yeah,
do
how
you
does it
start
manifest
doing?
from you went back to the promoters or the owners and kind of went, this is a good bar, I can make this work.
Yes, I think they had spent a bit more time with me and got to know me a little bit more. We did a few more business meetings, that kind of thing, sitting down, see how it's all going to work out logistically. And in the end, it was literally just a case of them producing a lease, going, yeah, we'll buy this premises for you, we'll stick you in it as licensee, as
That's
landlord.
badass.
You can get on with it, basically.
Did they help you with renovating the place?
Yes,
Renovating
so
upstairs?
so the Gryphon was literally closed for a week. So
Wow, a
it,
week.
it went from gay bar 1 week and then closed, renovations, complete lick of paint. I wanted to go for white walls everywhere and then just black from the waist down, because my vision was to have white walls. It's a blank canvas so that over the years I can put artwork
Artists
up,
in,
get
yeah.
artists in to draw on the walls, that kind of
I
stuff.
think I should remember it being
So
that
if
way.
yeah,
Is that how you did it?
and that's how it
14
is.
years
So
ago.
so in those early days when I first opened and people were hearing this loud music playing, emanating from this pub, but they would walk in and it's pristine white with bright lights. They're like, what is this? And they were just like a little bit unsure because it was just like
We like the music,
There
but
was
what the
blank
fuck?
walls. There was nothing on the walls. Nothing on the ceiling.
Not like there is today.
It looked very smart and tidy and posh, but I was just blasting out extreme heavy metal, which
People just kind of
was
We like
great.
the music, but what's going on?
But if you come in, obviously 14 years later and see it today, you can see how it's evolved. You've got
Is this your vision? Is
and
this how you saw it?
this is exactly what I wanted it
Love
to
it.
be.
I mean, for anyone that's
history
not been
here.
in here,
Yeah.
the artwork in here is incredible. Every wall is decorated like the place is banging.
Downstairs,
Like,
got all the beer pumps, clips that you've taken over the years, because obviously you switch around all of your ales so much.
Never have the same beer
Never have the
twice.
same beer
what you want
twice.
now, number
So we're on 3,478, I think.
3,000. I remember when you first started sticking them on the fucking wall, and now they're all over the ceiling to the door.
Yeah.
You know,
what are you going
like-
to do next when you?
Well,
run out of
I
space?
finished the ceiling.
Up here.
Finished the ceiling in 2016 downstairs.
Yeah,
I think there's about 1,800 pump clips on that ceiling, and they're just in shoe boxes in my office upstairs now.
I mean, you've got a huge roof here.
Well, we certainly do. It's yeah,
I think you might have to.
I
start
think you're
looking at
gonna have to
doing
put up here
a
too.
room as well.
tallest stool, I think.
I'll help you with
Get
it,
the
don't
step
worry.
ladder out.
I mean, you can probably touch it anyway, right?
The general concept for heavy metal and real ale again goes back to my University Birmingham days. So I was surrounded by these amazing venues that catered for heavy metal. So you had Scruffy Murphy's, Costermongers, the Flapper.
Scruffy Murphy's still a good place.
Eddie's Number 8, the old one before it burnt down. And all of those places I frequented, and it was great for the live music as well, and just the general scene of heavy metal. Yeah. But the beer was always shit.
Right, yeah, that's
and I was heavily into my real ales at the time, so I would then also go to all these old men real ale
camera guys kind of pubs and stuff.
So one of my favourite places in Birmingham was the Wellington, just off New Street, and they've literally got, I think it's like 25 hand pumps. So you order by number. There's a menu on a TV screen. You see what beer you want, you choose which pump number it is, and then they'll give you the beer. Absolutely wonderful beers from all over the country, but there's just no atmosphere.
Yeah, it's an old.
It's an old
boys pub to sit around.
It's a conversation pub rather than there for.
So that's the mixing of these two things coming together. You wanted the atmosphere of these like kind of gig venues, but not serving like shit beer. That I said earlier about when we were talking about the other venues, like you wouldn't buy anything from the tap because it'll make you sick. You always buy stuff from the bottles in the fridge because
you always buy stuff from the fridge and the bottles here and from the taps.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where that concept came from. I was just, I wanted good beer in a good heavy metal.
That's fucking cool. I like that.
And again, in the early days, a lot of people were just like, "Of course, Why has no one done this?"
I remember, like, I used to, like, obviously nowadays I don't drink as much real ale, predominantly because of my IBS, unfortunately. But like, I remember I used to come in here and like every time I just be like, "What's on, John?" Like literally, I just go, "What's on, John?" You'd be like, "I've got this and I've got this and I've got this thing from this," and I'd be like, "Right. Serve me a pint of wine. I'm going to try every single one of them that's on," and I'd have a grand old time. Like I drink, 5. Like at minimum, I had to drink 5 pints every time I came in, just to try all the different. That's what I told myself back in the day. I had to drink 5 pints to see all the different beer, and then
the following week it's all different.
It's all different again. No, I'm gonna have to drink another 5 pints. Oh no,
It's a fun thing when you walk in here and kind of go, I obviously have no idea what I'm going to drink.
Yeah. You take a punt and you take a whimsy and stuff, and and then sometimes it ends up like that soil gig night where you're just like, what's this in the cans here? Oh, I'll drink that. Oh, that's going to be great.
So John, did you know you were going to that gig when I was talking to you about that gig?
He's still upset about it, John. He's still upset about it. He's still upset about it.
Annoyed.
He's still upset about it.
I had contact not too much earlier than when I saw you. Maybe like an hour before I'd had contact from them, and I was just like...
And that was me being a little fanboy going, I can't wait, it's going to be amazing. You're like, alright, cool, whatever, yeah.
And then there's drunk Mateo at the bottom going, oh, sorry now. Oh, fucking... John's like, Mateo, do you want to come? Oh, good, okay.
It was funny because I walked past you in the bathroom and was like, why the fuck are you here? I was like, okay, maybe I'm too drunk, who knows, whatever, that was weird. And then I just get the video off Theo, and I was like... What has happened? What has happened?
I'm talking about the gig you guys do. What the fuck is happening?
I was literally talking to you an hour before, and there was nothing about going to the gig or all could have fun. No, it was just no.
I was still undecided at that point because
I think it
had been a long weekend.
Was it seeing me getting on when you were like, I could take the tennis?
I think it had been a long weekend for me, so I was umming and ahhing whether to do another gig that week. So I was like,
Dance was always yes, right?
Yeah, of course. But that was a good night.
It was. Well, don't you fuck the sound.
Always.
It's very rare that they don't fuck the sound. Yeah.
So, I think, unless
we're kind of like. I guess I kind of want to kind of finally ask. Like, obviously, we've had like this great history about you and about kind of finally starting this place. Like, and it's been now 14 years. And I guess for the listeners, it maybe sounds a little bit like we're kind of skipping a bunch of stuff, but we're not really because.
We'll have John back again now.
Of course.
Back.
But it's more like, it's been 14 years, John. Like, you've worked really, you put your blood, sweat and tears into this place.
Absolutely.
And I know you have. And you've been through the bad times, you've been through the good times where it's, the pub's making loads of money, you've been through the bad times where it's not making a lot of money.
We've been there with you.
And you've seen it through to the end, you know what I mean? Like, you've seen it through and you're still here now. And as I said, like this place finally is, and you know, I just want to say this from my point of view. Like when I was putting on gigs here over a decade ago now, like almost 15 years ago. No, less than that, about 10, 11 years ago.
The decade's 10.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sorry. It's 14, so it doesn't make sense I say 15.
Thank you, Carol.
My timing's gone. My timing's off. But, you know, I always knew that this place could have that. Obviously, it was maybe a bit too early doors for it to have that kind of prestige then. Do you feel like you've managed to achieve what it is that you set out to do?
I think so, yeah. It's like you said, it has been a hard slog. So there's mosh pit stories where I've literally come out unscathed, but running a pub, I have broken bones. I've had all sorts of injuries running this place, and to obviously in the early days, you don't really kind of have that too much of an intuition of how long is this going to last. It's a brand new business. If you're starting from nothing to try and build up
5 years for a small business, they always say that's
well, the first year of
need.
business. If you can't do it within 12 months, it's not going to succeed.
But even 5 years, they say like that. It takes 5 years just to build a small business into like that you actually get
recognizable,
like a recognizable thing. Like obviously, as a tattooist, like I've seen that a lot. So,
but I think certainly within the first 3 years, I could already see from the reception that I was getting that this was going to be an establishment of.
And you stuck to your guns about it as well. Do you know what I mean? Like you really,
absolutely.
Like, you could have switched out. Oh, we'll do more stuff for students. We'll have some indie stuff on. We'll do this. You know what I mean? You could have switched out to like a lot of that.
Been true to the heart and. It stands the test of time.
Stuck by, and so you feel that's like it's really it's worked.
Yeah,
kind of.
I mean it's insane to think of the numbers now, and here we are sat at 14 years. It is quite. It's very humbling to see what has become of this place and
what
how
you've created,
and how broad recognition and. How far worldwide this place actually goes now,
people know, like,
which again is insane to think about.
Coming from overseas going, we want to play the Gryphon, or they come and play another venue here, and then they're like, we're going to the Gryphon afterwards. We've heard about the Gryphon, like,
So
you had a thing before. It was always like welcome home,
yes.
and I 100% agree with that. Like the amount of people who've come here. The amount of friends I've met here, the amount of friends every one of us have met here, the amount of bands that have come here, like it's all been you, and like absolutely well done.
I
appreciate that.
It's a home away from home. Like for me personally, like this has been a safe haven for me for many years. It's been a place that I've always come to. I've always looked to. It's a place that I know that I can come to on my own.
And you'll have a great time.
And I'll say this even to people that have never come. If you're listening to this, you've never come and drunk here before. Like it's a place that you can come to. You can get a beer. And you can strike up a conversation with other people.
You can literally sit there by yourself, and someone can talk to you. And if you don't want to talk to them, then they'll walk away. It's
we've had couples that have met here, couples that have got married here, couples that have divorced here. We've had couples that have brought their kids in after they've met here. We've had all sorts. We've had.
Well, of course, 14 years. Jesus Christ, that makes sense. Yeah.
So we've had the whole spectrum of anything. Life has just come through this place.
I remember a comment years ago, like when COVID hit, and the place started struggling, you couldn't have gigs and everything else.
Of course.
And you put out like if you want this place to survive, please help. And like people did,
and everyone did. Buying takeaway beer and stuff. You were doing.
I was doing home deliveries.
Home deliveries.
And one of the things I loved about that was people turned around and it was like, look, the Gryphon is you. It's home for all of us. If you had to move next door, we would all go there. We would move everything there. We'd move it next door. It wouldn't make any difference. Like Gryphon's home to us.
Takes a lot of people that move heaven and earth to make sure this place stays. I guess then a final question in a way before we finish up is, what is the future? I guess as you see it, John, you've
already hit your vision.
You're
what
the
do you think's
landlord.
next?
So what's you've hit exactly what Tom just said. You've hit that vision in a way of from all the way back when you first took over this place. Like, what is the vision for the future for this
place? Is banging. Like it's a really cool place to be. Getting big bands.
Bands are interested. Gigs are popping off. For
me, I think is holding on to what I have here for as long as I can.
Okay.
Obviously, hospitality in the industry
Yeah.
and the arts and culture has taken
It's
a huge hit.
Constantly taking hits, yeah.
Certainly after to COVID and lockdown, but even more so in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think people can be blaming that lockdown anymore.
No.
It is a completely different shift
I
into
think it's a-
completely different way of life.
How have you seen the shift? Like, so COVID, I get because people couldn't go out and do
I
it,
think
but
I think part of it
what's
is what
happened
we talked
since?
about before. Is it's a political thing. I think
Yeah,
it doesn't matter
it's-
what government's in. They all seem to be completely hell bent on making nightlife as complicated
Yeah.
and as difficult and as
Because they think
expensive as
nightlife is
possible.
just staying out till 4 in the morning and fucked up
or
in the
whatever.
pub
It
for
doesn't seem to
1
matter.
podcast.
They just genuinely seem to all be hell bent
Yeah.
on like making it more difficult for pubs to survive, making
That's
it more
bollocks.
difficult. I just and I don't think it matters what party it is. They all seem to want to do that.
I put up a post recently where it was a memory thing on Facebook, and I was charging £2 a pint
Yeah.
10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had the heating on
Yeah.
in midwinter.
Exactly. Yeah.
And now we're on
10 quid a pint
average. Well,
Well, for what I'm drinking,
Yeah,
10 quid a
yeah.
pint.
you're drinking the 10 quid a pint
Yeah,
stuff.
that's
yeah.
the fancy cans.
Our average
Yeah.
price is £5.30 to £5.50 now,
Which is
and
still good.
Which is still it's
And
still
you have to
good,
be
but
selective
it's.
about when the heating goes on to keep the pub warm at certain
But I've
times.
never wanted to
No,
to
of course, but no
pass
public indulgence.
£5 a pint.
Of course.
And I'm now owned by a completely different landlord, so my rent structure is completely different.
I was gonna
and
say, can
that is
we-
my biggest
I didn't-
expense.
I
I mean,
didn't-
I can't obviously divulge too much into it.
Of course, but I don't know. Are you okay if we talk about quickly that, because I think that is a bittersweet ending, but an amazing ending of the work that you've done is what happened with the new landlords. Because obviously that story is quite sad. It's a bittersweet story about how basically you were hoisted by your own success.
Yeah, so I wanted. I mean, the dream was always to own your own property.
Yeah, own it outright,
I had a
not be renting it.
15-year lease with my old landlords. The dream was always to approach them like I did from day one, saying I want to do this. So approach them towards the end of the 15-year lease, saying I would like to buy
Buy
the
the
pub.
place outright. Buy the
Can
Gryphon
we-
outright.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
yours. Lock,
Yeah.
stock, barrel.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
And they kind of beat me to it in that I think it was 2021.
To be fair, it's a
They-
shit year, so...
They rang round and said, because they were absolutely brilliant over lockdown, and they looked after all of their tenants wonderfully, and they always had. And they
It's the same guys that set you up here first place,
yes, yeah. And they were in a position that they wanted to sell up. They reached a certain point with their life goals and their ambitions that they were prepared to start selling off things. So they rang up tenants and giving first refusals and all of that. And I jumped at the chance and said, yes, I would like to buy.
Yeah.
Straight away, I was
Yeah.
like, yes,
Yeah.
yes, please.
Start being able to like for those who don't understand, like obviously if somebody actually owns their pub premises, they can massively start actually like dictating their own prices. They can massively
Yeah.
start like dictating their own. Obviously, like the rent stuff goes away, like blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It,
And you're
yeah.
if unless you've got a huge lump sum of cash to buy it outright,
Yeah.
you would be looking at a commercial mortgage,
Yeah.
which is considerably cheaper than rent,
the rent
that you
the
would be
rent,
paying.
especially in
So-
Bristol currently,
Yeah.
as we've said before.
Is it
Yeah.
really?
Bristol rent? Yeah, it's hugely.
So I saw on the phone, I was like, yes, I would like to buy.
I'm already paying this in rent. I can afford it. Let's go.
And that's how I, in an ideal world, it would have all worked out. And rang back and said, yeah, I'm ready to make an offer. And they'd already sold it to a pubco who essentially swooped in and just bought their entire portfolio for an
cheap.
undisclosed amount
But
of money.
but you're underselling the bit where.
But what happened to my first refusal and all of that goodwill and
Yes, basically, for the listeners, basically what happened was that John went to them, and the reason that they sold his pub to this new pubco, who are now kind of upping rents and stuff, is because John, and the way that he's run the Gryphon and run it so well, was making so much money that they were like, this has to be part of the package. We can't sell you the Gryphon. The Gryphon has to be part of the package
God.
to this new pubco, because
So your own
the Gryphon's
success
one of the
was
ones
your-
that's making
fuck.
money. So John, unfortunately, through running this place so well and doing such a good job, just completely got hoisted on his own success and they were just
fucking
like,
hell, I didn't
this
know
has to
that.
be part of this package to this new pub code because this is one of the ones that's
makes a lot of money.
making revenue, making really good revenue, and that's unfortunately
And
why.
my old landlords had brought round people. They would turn up on the doorstep with some random people in suits, and I'm like, why?
I think I
And I'd
remember
be like,
someone coming in.
and I'd be like, "Oh, hello, is everything all right?" And they're like, yeah, we just want to show these guys around, see what you're
Who
doing.
are these guys?
They're just like,
Why are you men in black here? Fucking, you know.
well, no, they were just like, we want to show this pub off because you're doing really well. And I was like, oh,
Well,
thank you very much.
Exactly. Yeah. Now we know why. Yeah. Now we know why.
And
But,
so it was just unfortunate it happened the way it did.
Maybe you'll
But
be
you
able to
never
buy it
know.
again in the future.
That's what
We'll
I
see.
mean. Like,
We'll see.
let's
Yeah.
let's hope for the future, John. Like, you're still managing to do it, even with all the extra difficulties that are coming up. You've survived more.
We
I
appreciate that's
believe
hard on
that-
you, and we're all here for you. Like,
Yeah. And like Tom briefly touched on before, is that if an opportunity for me to take on a place of my own as a freehold, commercial mortgage is obviously cheaper than
That
rent.
would be interesting.
I would be inclined to maybe take it with me because I'm
The Gryphon
I
will
think
go
you're
in.
the
Gryphon
soul.
will go
Exactly.
in.
I think you're the soul of the Gryphon. I
Yeah.
think if you move to a different premises and it was like, this is mine now and this is going to be the Gryphon now.
The
Even
army
if it
of
had a
people
different
you would
name,
have to help you
that
move,
would
to help
instantly
set it up.
just go like, right, the Gryphon's like, the Gryphon isn't you've, and this is a great way to end it on. The Gryphon isn't just like this place, this pub, this
No.
venue. Yes, it's got history. Yes, we've
It's
all
the
got
metal
memories
heart
here
of
and stuff.
Bristol.
But it is also you, John. Like, you've built this, and if you went somewhere else,
We would
right,
follow.
We'd all follow. You know what I mean? And then that would be the Gryphon, even if it had a different name and a different pub. That would be the Gryphon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I do believe
100% agree. Yeah.
and
100%
obviously,
agree.
we all hope that doesn't happen. We hope that this keeps
Yeah.
going.
We love our home.
I think it will. I think we've been.
and that's
through tough
what
times.
I love and appreciate from all of the support that I've always had from everyone that drinks here over the years, is that I have had the opportunity to be able to do what I want to do, live my dream, with all the staff that have worked for me over the years that have helped me build up this, and just for everyone that continues to support me for what I do, whilst we still can, whilst the cost of everything goes up, we will cling on to it as best we can.
Yeah.
So thank you guys as well.
I really appreciate it, John. Really appreciate having you here.
Yes, as I say,
I live here.
I live upstairs. You can't get out of my house.
yeah, I think we're
I think
probably
that's a
running
great
out of
way to-
time. But
Yeah.
John, thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
everything you've
John.
done for the podcast. Thank you for everything. Like, you let us be here. Thank you for coming on. It's absolutely amazing talking
No
to you.
problem at all.
I hope our listeners love it as much as we have, because it's been absolutely fucking awesome.
Good.
And long live the Gryphon.
Long live the Gryphon.
This is our home. Everyone, come to the Gryphon. Join us for beer. We'll see you in the pits.
Give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire.